Well, that's the way it is in this business. Unfortunately, there's going to be a little accident here and there. But what we can do here on the superpilotish channel is let's try to fly a little bit safer. And I'll give you a couple little tips today that maybe you've thought of, maybe you haven't thought of, and maybe you've heard of, but you need a little reminder from some guy in his basement. Welcome to the superpilotish channel. My name's Graham Wilson, and today, like I said, in my basement, I'm going to be telling you all about, how to be a little bit safer, how to manage your airplane a little bit better, and pay attention out there, maybe just a little bit more. So yeah, so this show is going to be kind of like a little two-parter. The first little bit, I'm going to be talking about gear gear reduction. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Gearbox reduction, gearboxes and belts and stuff like that for your airplane. And then the second little bit, I'm going to be talking about flying at night safely. Okay, so the first little bit here is kind of one of those things where I follow different people on Twitter and X, whatever you want to call it, Twitter X Twitter, and there's as soon as an airplane crashes, it's like boom, everyone's all over the place on, oh, I want to get the clicks, I want to get the likes and all that stuff. I don't think it's all really all that cool to start getting likes about about something that's kind of tragic. And I try not to talk about, I do the absolute wrong thing that you're supposed to do as a YouTuber, and I don't go for the sensationalism. Hey guys, let's not be stupid like this pilot. You get guys like that on the internet, and they get lots of clicks and likes, and everyone can comment and say, "Oh yeah, that pilot was so stupid." I know because I fly Microsoft Flight Simulator. Okay, captain in your basement. I'm kind of a captain in my basement, but I do get up in the air. And so, yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this one plane. It was a Cessna 421. So that's a twin engine airplane. And unfortunately, there was an accident over the weekend somewhere. I forget exactly where it was, even. It was just like, ooh, ooh. The only thing I remember about that is that it was a Cessna 421. And that kind of got a light bulb going on in my head. It's like, wait a minute, I know a Cessna 420 around 421 that's had quite a few problems with it. Partially, I think it was because originally it wasn't really maintained all that great, but now it's a little bit better. So, oh, hey, Adam, welcome back, buddy. Yeah, so the Cessna 421, it's kind of a when everything's working on it, it's a great plane. And I hear a lot of things about that. Oh, hey, Brian. And hey, Shecky. So I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit about how on some airplanes the propeller works. Okay. So I'm going to I'll probably be erasing a lot. So I got to get my high tech eraser out. It's funny whenever I bring this up, it's like that's what Google or YouTube figures out. Oh, we should put this when you scroll over it. It's like, oh, here's Graham with his paper towels again. Okay, so I'm gonna make a couple little diagrams here. Let's draw a flat six engine. Here we go. So there we go. Is that a Continental or a Lycoming or a Lego block? I think it's kind of more like we'll call that a Lycoming engine. Okay, it's a 6-cylinder, 3 on each side, and maybe it's got a big turbocharger on the back. We got our exhaust coming down here. Okay, there we go. How would you do that? You have an exhaust coming out here. You got a little turbine here. That kind of comes back up around here for our compressor. And that goes back into the engine. There we go. Hey, we're getting more complicated here. So these are your pistons. You got your exhaust manifold here. It goes into your main exhaust pipe. Off of the exhaust gas, that gives you that will drive your compressor up here for your turbocharger. Up at the front, we got our drive shaft that comes out here. And we'll make a little box on the front. Okay, let's see how this works. Okay, so there's your drive shaft, and that's coming out of these pistons are going back and forth, making this guy turn around. Normally on planes, you'll have a propeller directly attached to that drive shaft. But what some airplanes do, like the Cessna 421, they'll just have a gear on here. And they usually do that so it'll match up with this shaft. And that's got your big, huge propeller on there. So any of those big, huge propeller airplanes, my propellers are looking better these days. So yeah, so if this is going to be turning around really, really, really fast, you can't have this propeller that's that big going around that fast because it won't be efficient, and your tips will be breaking the sound barrier, making a whole lot of noise. Oh, and hey, Daniel, and hey, Wrench. So you need this little reduction gearbox in here, and sometimes it could be drive shaft to another prop shaft. Could be a couple in there, depending on how much you got to reduce it. But I was trying to think of okay, how many people have I known that have flown an airplane like this, and this little gearbox here has failed on them? And I just at the top of my head, I can definitely name 3 people where that thing has failed and propeller stops or it ain't working anymore. So, oh, hey, DH Pilot 1, hello. And yeah, so I'm kind of talking about this little part here failing. So on 2 of those airplanes that I know the person it failed, it was an actual 2 gears meshing together. Another one had kind of a funky setup where it was a car engine. It was in a home built airplane, had a car engine which revs up really high, and they had to slow it down for the propeller that was on the plane, and that had a belt on it, and the belt blew off. So, or broke, and so this is zing, now it's got no load on it. You over rev your engine, and your propeller stops. And he ended up landing in a field. He was okay. And then the other guys, it was on a twin engine airplanes. They managed to go and land safely with only one engine. So now the thing is, for the Cessna 421 that I heard that crashed, it's like, oh, there's different things that could happen there. My first instinct is gearbox failure, and or the other thing I was thinking about there too. Oh, and I'll tell you why I suspected that first. Another thing to watch out for if you have a turbocharged airplane like the 421. Okay, and these turbochargers, so when you're flying around and you're really giving her the gas, like this thing's just cooking. It's zinging around really fast. Everything's all really hot, and so what can happen is if you're really operating at a high temperature, everything's at a high temperature here, and you say, oh, I'm a little bit too high here, let's just chop and drop, right? So you give put the throttle right back to idle. Now there's nothing, and maybe you're up at like a really high altitude too. So say you're up at I don't know, it's a 421 pressurized. I think it is. So say you're up at 18,000 feet where it's really cold, minus, I don't know, minus 30 Celsius. And this is all cooking up at like really hot. And all of a sudden now you chop the throttle. This thing cools off really, really fast. They call that shock cooling. And you jam the nose down and you gain a whole bunch of speed, and you're just chopping and dropping. And the temperature change here, it can crack the turbo anywhere around there because it's really hot. You know how I don't know if you ever done that. I had a coffee pot break once. I was like washing it really, really hot, and I thought I'd rinse it under cold water, and the glass coffee pot just broke. So that temperature change can crack things, and so you could bust your turbo, you could bust your exhaust manifold, you could bust the block on it too. It's not cool. So on a really high performance complex airplane like the 421, you got to baby that engine. So no drastic throttle jockeying. Watch your temperatures, everything nice and easy. Plan in advance, plan your descent. So you're descending not just with idle power to chop and drop and get down. You're descending with power, gradually cooling everything down. And it can run for a long time. That's how it's designed to be run. And yeah, and then you're also doing funny stuff. I'll talk about this little gear reduction box here too. So yeah, and so that's how you can bust up your turbo and your exhaust I'll erase that, and I will show you what I'm talking about. How that can mess up your gear, your gear reduction box. I don't even know the real name of that. What is it? Gear reduction box, gearbox, speed gear reduction something. But this is what I've heard happens, and I've also heard this happening on different motorcycles too, and not really so much cars. But what you have, so let's say we got a gear. Let's make a gear. Now, the very first shop I worked at as a machinist, they made gears for airplanes and helicopters. It was like a kind of aerospace. They specialized in gears, and the amount of quality that was put into those gears was phenomenal, and the inspection was over the top. So it's like I know they're getting manufactured properly because they're getting checked for all along the way. They get sometimes they get X-rays. They'll put them in a solution, put them under black light, see if there's any little cracks. They can see if they were grinding a gear, if it got a little overheated, so it changed the strength of the metal. They can check all that stuff, and they do every single piece. So I know that the gears coming from the manufacturer, they're good. So okay, here's my awesome gearbox. Okay, this is some kind of Bart Simpson, some kind of Bart Simpson, Charlie Brown kind of gear, but you'll get the idea. So, and then we got another one up here, and they kind of fit in between. Oh, this is looking bad. Okay, that's the most crappy gear I've ever seen. Okay, I don't know what that looks like. It looks like, I don't know, some cover for like a Metallica album or something. But okay, we'll say that the gears mesh up in here. Okay, and so they are only designed to push one way on the propeller where the load's supposed to be. Say it's pushing over here. X. We'll put X marks the spot. Maybe I'll get a different color marker for this too. I never really practiced my drawing before I do this, but okay, I just want to show you. So this is where this is okay. The way that the engineers have set it all up is that, okay, your gear is going to be pushing, your contact surface is going to be here. Okay, that shows a gap there, but it would be touching. But there always is like a little bit of a gap in between the teeth there, and they call that backlash. So if it was just sitting here, this little gear up here, you'd be able to jiggle it just a little bit, tick 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 tick. You probably wouldn't even hear it. It could be like the backlash could be like 1,000th of an inch or something, but there's ways of measuring it, and they I'm sure they get all checked out and stuff like that. But if you start putting the load from, okay, I'm working the propeller really hard, to, oh, I'm not working the propeller hard at all, I'm going to have the propeller go and drive the engine, and then so it starts pushing on this side. So if your gear is going back and forth like that, that's where you get like a lot of wear. If it's just kind of a constant gentle load on one side, you're cool. But if you start slapping it back and forth, and then what can happen there too, right? You could have like the metal starts wearing out a little bit more than it was engineered to, and maybe you might have a little chip come off there, right off the corner. Might be like, oop, this is brittle up here at the tooth, and whoop, little metal chip gets out there. Now that's metal chips slopping around in all this oil and everything that's in there, and it's wearing down the other teeth. And after a few RPMs, one of these guys, tooth breaks off and no propeller. So you got to really watch it with any type of gear reduction system that you have on your plane. And then, like, for those, kind of like a rubber toothed belt that the other guy had. And I don't know how you'd inspect that yourself. So, not really a huge fan of anything that has that type of gear reduction. But I mean, that being said, you have that on all your big jets have that type of thing, because the shaft on your okay, the turbine part of your what do you call that? Yeah. So it's kind of like all your main turbine part of your big jet and then it kind of it goes through a little gear reduction box, and then you got the big turbo fan on the front, which turns slower than the rest of the turbine of your jet. So and that's very robust. I mean, the gears are like really heavy duty, and you never really hear those ones failing. But when it's coming from a jiggly piston airplane, like, and you think about that too, for if you got like a jet, it's got like that little, the idea is like you got your little cigar jet with a big turbo fan on the front. And then, oh, hey, safety dog's here too. Hi. Yeah, so it's only ever going one way if you're going to be doing that type of that jet thrust, and it's very smooth because it's all just one big shaft. But if you got pistons slopping around and all this other stuff and a lot more, I don't know, gyroscopic effects on the propeller, you're going to get a lot more wear and tear on your gearbox here. So suffice to say, anyone out there doing you have any type of gearbox at all on your airplane, take it easy, man. Don't go slamming the throttle around, treat it like a woman. Kid gloves. Oh, actually, no, that doesn't sound right. I don't know. Gentle. Okay. Smooth but strong. Okay, whatever. Yeah, so we're gonna do that. So that's what I wanted to talk about for and how if there's anything that's more to the airplane, like I showed you before, there was a turbocharger, there was the gearbox, all this extra stuff, maybe 6 cylinders instead of 4 cylinders. The more complex you make something, the more chances are something in the whole system is going to fail. So me, I like it simpler the better. So, okay, that was I'm going to have to go to art class to figure out how to make gears, or I don't know, take my time, learn how to do CAD, something like that. Okay, so that was that. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, there's a helicopter crash at night in El Salvador that I just heard about yesterday, and very tragic. A lot of people lost their lives. So I just kind of wanted to say to anyone, and that got me thinking too about this time of year, the days are getting a little bit shorter. Nights are getting longer. So that's when people start getting into doing night training. And so just like a little bit of, I don't know, sort of a reminder for anyone out there, you're going to be flying in the dark a little bit more now. All that stuff that you learned about in school about like black hole effect and all this other stuff, it's true. And if you're relying on if you're flying looking at instruments all the time and stuff, and you never look out of the cockpit, no, you're just used to looking at the instruments. But sometimes you got to look out of the cockpit, and a lot of times people don't. I don't know. They forget how disorienting it can be flying at night. So, and one of the biggest things that can disorient you is that, like I was just thinking about the weather with this helicopter crash down south, that from what I saw in the videos, they were getting on it. It was at night. It was rainy. I'm not sure if it was in the mountains down there, but it's night and rain. That's that's a real disaster waiting to happen, unless they're flying IFR, and then that's okay. But are you proficient at the, like, so say a lot of times people they'll have accidents if, oh yeah, I got my instrument rating, I bought my plane, I got my $1 million Malibu, and yeah, okay, my instrument rating's expired, but I can at least shoot an ILS, and then they file and away they go, and something weird happens and they're behind the airplane. And there's a lot of videos on YouTube about that, how guys are just flying around, they don't know where they are. It's like, it can happen to people with a whole lot of hours. And if it's something that gets thrown at you, nighttime, rain, all of a sudden the ceiling's lower than you thought. Oh, I'm in a cloud. Whoop, didn't know that. Can't see anything. It's all black. Oh, my instruments are here. How good are the instruments? When was the last time I looked at instruments? I'm used to flying around during the daytime. So just kind of keep that in mind, everybody, for if you're going to be going. And I was almost thinking about doing that at some time, maybe this fall, is going. I haven't been up at night for a little while, and probably be a good thing for me to go up with an instructor and get checked out at night and say like, "Hey, am I missing something here, young kid?" You never know. I mean, that's like I'm an instructor, but I'll go up with someone else, some other less experienced instructor than me, and I'll learn something from them because they learned it from someone else and someone else. So there's nothing wrong with taking them. I'd say probably more than anything, if you're going to be flying at night here, coming up in night flying season, yeah, just kind of be a little extra cautious when you get up there. We don't want any. We want everyone to have good, happy flying stories, not bad ones. So, yeah. So there we go. Just kind of watch it flying at night. What tip can I give you there? Okay, I'll kind of go over what the black hole effect is. All right. So I don't know if I can explain this properly here. So here we are. Let's just say we're going to be coming in. Okay, here we go. I will draw a runway. The standard superpilotish runway. That is your runway. Okay. So if you're going to come in, you're going to be landing on your runway. Let's draw a little airplane here. Okay. How do I draw my little airplane? We'll have tail. We'll draw Adam's airplane here. There we go. All right, Adam. Does that look like your plane right there? So, okay. And then, so say you're going to come in here and land like this. And normally during the daytime, everything's totally cool. You can judge how high you are, what angle you're coming in. And maybe there's a tree here. Okay. Okay, so you got a tree here because some moron planted a tree at the end of the runway. But that can happen though. Like, depending on where you are, there's a tree. It's legally there has to be a certain amount of, I think it's 2 degrees of clearance between the landing zone and any obstacle there. So they do trim trees sometimes if they grow up too high at airports. But so if you're coming in like normally, that's what you'll be doing. But at night, the illusion is that you will think the way that it looks at and the way it fools your brain is that during the daytime, everything's cool. You can see all these visual cues and everything. But at night, there will be an illusion that you are up this high, but you're actually not. You're down here. Okay. Okay. More excellent airplane drawings. So, okay, at night, your brain's going to trick you in thinking that you're up here, but you're actually down here if there's no other things to look at. And that's where you get into trouble where, oh, I can see the runway, I can see the runway, I can see the runway, or I can see the top of the hill, or I can see, and then if it's raining, you got a little bit of an illusion on there too. Usually anything, if it's rain or if there's hills or dark and stuff like that, the illusion will be that you're higher than you actually are. It's always more dangerous. So, yeah, you can come in here like this. And I know one instructor that I talked to, he said that he was doing night training once, and his student was doing fine. And he said that he thought they were coming in just fine to land. And then he noticed the landing light on the airplane lit up a tree in front of him. So it just went right underneath him. So they gave it the gas and gained some altitude and figured out what they were doing. But he said it was very alarming to see that tree out of nowhere because he thought he was up here. Next thing you know, you see a tree with your landing light. Not cool. And they didn't hit it. They were maybe, a few feet above it. But like, whoa, where'd that tree come from? That'll wake you up. So there's ways of combating that. So at night, remember, just like you were taught, usually if you're flying into an airport that's lit, there'll be some sort of landing system where you got your PAPI lights. You got ones like that. You got those things. They got some that are just a little too. There we go. Something like that. You're looking good. So There's yeah, so there's different little lights that you would see, and they're shining off this way at the pilot. And okay, refresh yourself with what type of lighting is at the airport that you're going to be going to too. So yeah, watch out for that black, and they call this the black hole effect, and that affects everybody, big jets, little airplanes, helicopters, everybody flying at night will fall for this illusion. It's just the way your brain works, and so rely on your lights, rely on your instruments. If you're and then if you're ever messed up, maybe the lights are unserviceable at your airport you're going to. Just and the best way to combat that is just go in instead of doing a straight in approach. Just go in and join the circuit or join the pattern. Come around that way because you can always kind of see. Oh yeah, yeah. There's the airport. I'm cool, and then that will kind of. This is usually for a very long straight in approach that happens. So, anyways, there we go. Hopefully, somebody's thinking about flying a little bit safer at night now, and that's what I do. Hang out in my basement, talk about safety. So we'll just clean that up here. All right. Well, we'll take a look now at the at our little comments and everything. We'll see if someone's got some tips for me. I don't know. You never know. There's how many people do we got here today? Eight people in the chat, according to my thing here. 8 heads are better than 1. So, all right, let's go back to the top here. We'll see what's what. All right, what do we got here? All right, Wrench has a bunch of engineering questions here. Let's say. Oh, okay, here we go. That's a good question. Can you prevent shock cool with cowl flaps? Russian World War II fighter planes had adjustable nose inlets. Really cold in Russia. Yeah. So, okay, if you got cowl flaps, cowl flaps usually are designed so that they are closed at cruising altitude, and it's all set. Cowl flaps are all kind of designed just to give it a little bit more air under like a high throttle settings and stuff like that. It's the cowl flaps are meant for cooling, not so much warming so much. So yeah, and then I guess the risk to that I would think, Wrench, is that if you do have a more complex plane like that, what happens if you forget the cowl flaps are like cold and someone's taking off or they're doing a touch and go or something like that, and then you're totally overcooked overheat the engine? That could happen depending on it. Or I wonder if you could automate that. I don't know, but I'm sure there's ways of yeah, the engineer brain is getting my engineer-ish brain kind of working there. Yeah, you probably could do something like that. And like with all things aviation, just how much money you got, you do whatever you want if you got enough money. There we go. That's a neat idea. Yeah, I'll have to check into that. That sounds interesting. I've never heard of that before. Okay. And Daniel's making fun of my little broken collarbone x-ray. Yeah, you have gears for a collarbone? That's interesting, Daniel. Okay. All right, what else we got here? I don't know what Safety Doc's talking about. If gassy, adopt the pilot motto of hold it in, we all win. Yes, you got to watch out for that gas. Gases expand when you go up because there's less pressure. So that means that there's gases in your stomach will expand. And then when you come back down, that gas has to go somewhere when it squishes out. So anyways, all right. All right. Yeah. The second one, I did try to do the straight tail there, Adam. And yes, the Pelee black hole effect, Pelee Island pucker. Yes, Pelee Island is the most southern airport in Canada, the Pelee Island Airport, and it's in a lake. So you do get a definite black hole effect by the lake. Oh, and then DH Pilot had a question about this scenario on his INRAD. Oh, you did your INRAD. That's good. That's the written test in Canada for doing IFR flying. So yeah. And then I wonder how that went. Adam was wondering how that went too. So I hope it went okay. Yeah, so here we go. And Brian, when I was teaching Brian his night rating, yeah, we did that black hole training session out to Pelee Island, and Brian actually got fooled by it. And that is probably no disrespect to Brian there. That'll happen to anybody that isn't used to it. Like, it doesn't matter how experienced you are, if you've never really kind of experienced that, it'll freak you right out. But I memean, I was keeping an eye on things. I wanted to see how far it would get. So Brian thought he was climbing up, and then he sees a car because it's the idea is if you're taking off, the tendency is to push the nose down, and was kind of watching things. Yep, here we go. And I thought I let it go so that you would learn there, Brian. So, and he did. So, oh, okay, you passed. All right, good stuff. Congratulations, DH Pilot 1. All right, very good. Good man. Yeah, maybe I'll have to get DH Pilot 1 to take me up. Check me out at night. Who knows? Okay, so yeah, so that's about it for today. What day is today? Today is Monday. Okay, so I'll be back on Wednesday. Hopefully, if things work out well on Wednesday, it'll be kind of a special report from a mystery location. Ooh, we'll see what happens. See if my technology works or not. But yeah, so kind of, I don't know, not really a special show on Wednesday, but let's put it this way. I won't be in my basement. Where will he be? Okay, and looking forward to Wednesday. So, because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. So we'll just kind of shut her down here. And thanks a lot for all the good questions and comments in the chat here. That's very, very cool. What a great gang following me here. So yeah, that's about it. Okay. Thank you for watching. Bye.